There is a weird trigger that happens in that individual when they get the title manager. And for some reason, they believe now that sitting in their office, at a desk, is managing their technicians. So basically, now you're just taking your top performer, put them in the office, and now you're losing all of that performance revenue from that individual to take the calls in an office, which is what he was doing anyways when he was actually out in the field.
The new Flat Rate Podcast. For contractors ready to boost tickets, simplify business, and gain freedom. Today, we sat down with Matt Maleske, the founder of CTM, Coach, Train, Motivate. And now, your host, me, Natalie Koop, and your co-host, Danielle Putnam.
Today, we're joined by Matt Maleske, founder of CTM, Coach, Train, Motivate. After years in the HVAC industry, Matt discovered that being a great technician doesn't automatically make someone a great leader. In this episode, we're talking about how contractors can develop stronger leaders, coach their teams more effectively, and build a company where people continue to grow. Matt, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And then jumping right into it, you spent years in the field before becoming a trainer. Looking back, what are some lessons you wish someone had taught you much earlier in your career?
Yeah, things I wish I would have been taught earlier in my career. As you're learning and being taught how to, I started as a technician, and I was fortunate that I worked for a company that actually talked about the communication side of things and how you kind of walk and talk with the homeowner. But what was never really taught or talked about were the whys. It was just like, this is how we do it. This is what you should say. But no one explained to me the reasoning behind those actions or that part of the conversation. So I think a lot of it I learned on my own just by wanting to be more successful about what I was doing. And I think I had an awareness about what I was doing as well. So that as I was saying something to a homeowner or asking certain questions, I would, see how they responded to that. And if it wasn't a good response, I'd be like, that's not a good way of doing it. Instead of someone actually sitting me down and explaining, hey, this is the why you asked this question. This is why this might seem like a simple action is so important. For example, putting on your floor savers. That was given rule for our company, and they just told me you have to wear your floor savers. And I was like, oh, okay, that's part of the job. I didn't understand the reasoning behind it and how it set us apart from other companies and how people respond to that. Just simple task, which as I've learned over the years, even to this day, just for all you contractors out there that think your guys are wearing them on a regular basis, I got some news for you that about probably 50% of the guys still don't wear them if they don't have to.
CTM says you help technicians go from the truck to the kitchen table. What does that phrase mean?
Well, see, a lot of techs, for one, have a hard time when you kind of label the training as sales training, right? Because it's like, oh, I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be a pushy sales guy, And so what they don't know and understand is that there is a whole process that takes place from the moment they pull up to the house, and then getting to the point where I like to put it as you earn the right to offer options and things, whatever may come about on the call. You know what I mean? And so there are specific steps that we teach technicians on how to, it's more of communication than anything. And the reasoning why we do those steps, that's why I became a trainer. So that it's like, well, you say this or you do this for this purpose. And, it's just one of those things. And so at the end of the day, there should be something to offer the homeowner, in terms of whether it's parts or whether it's a maintenance agreement or you're maybe talking to them about new equipment or turning something over, that if you bypass all those interaction steps, we refer to as building rapport, you are going to miss out on many opportunities. We provide it, and the way we train it is, I refer to it to the techs as a systematic approach to sales. I have learned over the years that technicians are linear thinkers, and so as managers and owners and leaders, we are very conceptual in our approach. We can look at what the goal is, and then we can look back and say, okay, these are all the things we have to do in order to meet that goal. Well, take you through doing it. Okay, that's a great goal. And then, okay, what do I do now? And so it's like you have to show them step one, and then once you do step one, then you can do step two, and then you can do step three instead of jumping all the way to step 10. And techs tend to go from step one to step 10 because like now it's time to present, but they haven't done all the interaction and things necessary in order to be more successful at that. And we stand behind with something that was pounded into me by one of my mentors, Kevin Comerford. Like we work our ass off for the homeowners before we ever ask for anything. And it always is delivered with 100% customer satisfaction. And so that is a stronghold in with CTM and in how we train, right? Like it's not about being pushy or anything of that nature. And so I always lead in with the guys with this question. Would you rather try to sell something to a homeowner or have the homeowner ask you for the sale? And they always go, well, of course, have the homeowner ask us for the sale. Well, you do all these steps, then that's going to be the natural progression of the call. And so you're not actually selling anything. You're providing the homeowner with the things that they're asking you to provide for them.
Okay, so it sounds like, Matt, that you're putting that in that linear pattern for them. And so you're training technician A go from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 and continue to give value to the customer. And then by the time we get to point 10, we're actually hopefully not even ever having to ask per se. By point 10, the customer's saying, all right, so how much does that cost? And can you do that other thing that you showed me?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I explained to them is like, if we're going to talk and use the word sales, like the ultimate goal is for that homeowner to ask that question. Well, how much is that? Okay, well, that's a sign to you that you've actually done your job well. You've explained the reasoning behind it. And okay, now they want to know what it's going to cost to take your recommendation. And that's the way sales should be.
Mm-hmm. And then it's, oh, well, I'll just show you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then of course they have to use their tools, like for example, like the new flat rate is an amazing tool, that they have to learn how to present that information. And so, but you got to do all that stuff first in order to get that right to be able to present those things. And then now it's just up to the homeowner to make a decision.
Right. And it's in leadership. We got to earn the right.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Okay. I want to keep asking questions about this, but I don't want to jump ahead of Natalie. What you got next time? Because she might have it, right? I'll be like, well, let me ask this one. She might.
Yeah, well, feel free, man. I'm ready to go. Well, I talk about this stuff all day. We could do a 10-hour podcast.
So, what is the biggest communication mistake you see technicians make when they first sit down with the homeowner?
They are almost unequivocally too technical. They tend to, the way I explain it is like when you go to a doctor and you don't know all these scientific terms of all your things in your body, and they start rattling off all these big names, and you just instantly go, "Oh, I didn't know my contricular ligavator is off," and so it's like, what do I do now? And one of the things in sales that I talk about, whether it's talking with technicians or salespeople, is the confused mind will always say no.
Yeah.
So they tend to speak too much technical. And then the other thing is I call it throwing up on the homeowner. It's like, oh, they're showing a little interest in what I'm saying because I'm a tech and this is my life and I love everything I do. And so they just don't stop talking. And that breaks down the communication. You're not listening to what the homeowners, saying or what they're really asking you. And, particularly if they're in front of a woman, right? Because a woman will still respond. Oh yeah, I gotta be engaged in compensation. I'm like a man. And yeah, and so they think that this woman's really interested in what they're saying. And I go, you guys, the reality is like it's the old Peanuts, cartoons. It's the parent talking in the background, wah, 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 and they don't know what you're talking about, but they're going to make you feel good about it. And so we talk a lot about that, particularly when they're interacting with a woman, because it's important to understand the difference between the two. It's a different style of communication.
Yeah. So I like how you're saying too that it breaks down that relationship and that communication of when we overshare and we overeducate and we're getting too technical all of a sudden the homeowner that was possibly interested is starting to back away. And I feel, Matt, humans, right? So many of us avoid conflict like the plague. And so we're not going to tell you, actually, I've already checked out. I'm no longer interested because you overshared. Like, we're just never going to tell you, right? We're just continue to be polite. And then all of a sudden we lose the sale and we don't know why. There was some yellow lights. We didn't know how to watch for them. And all of a sudden we didn't get the upsell. Maybe we just got one thing, not two things, when we could have had so much more. And, I know you talk about this. We talk about this all the time too. Let's maximize every opportunity in the home. And so how do you actually train it
Absolutely.
to not, or like, come on, how much is enough? How much is too much? That's a fine line, isn't it? Or is it easy?
Well, one thing about working with technicians particularly is I never want them to not be a technician. All right. And so I've seen and I've worked with people that they're more of a salesperson in a technician uniform than they are an actual technician. And so that's the way I challenge the guys is, you know, what's our goal on every call is what I'll ask them. Like, raise your hand if you agree with me that when you leave a customer's, let's just don't even talk about the customer, just the equipment. Do you want it operating at its maximum operating efficiency? Do you want it working as all by the manufacturer specifications when you leave that home? And they all go, absolutely. And I said, okay, well, then you have a job to do.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think about all the things. Like, when you just said you agreed with me that efficiency was important. Well, then why aren't you, if you have a dirty blower, why aren't you offering the blower cleaning? I mean, because that's a broken down efficiency. And if the blower's dirty, that means the coil's dirty. So, like, one thing leads to another, and you just can't be afraid to bring it to the table because that's your job, But if you're not staying in communication with the homeowner throughout the call, and you come in and with a checklist of things and just unload on them, well, yeah, you're going to come across like you were just there to sell a bunch of services and parts.
So you
And
want
that's
to
not
keep
the goal.
the conversation going throughout the time that you're there. We visit a little bit, we do some work. We visit a little bit, we do some work, and we develop a natural, more organic cadence so that it's not a whole rush at the end.
Absolutely. And we refer to that as points of contact. You can't just do all of your rapport building in the first 10 minutes you're there and then go for an hour and then come back and here you go. Like, if there's something that needs to be shown, bring them over, show them how dirty the coil is and show them how clean it is after you're done. Like, so you're building the value in your service. And, it's hard to kind of explain all these things in this kind of format, but when you leave the customer, you're also leaving them with the notion, hey, if I come across anything, would it be okay if I talk to you about that before I leave? And we refer to that as a transitional statement. And that way they're kind of prepared when you come back for something. And often they'll be like, oh, wait, where'd you find it? Well, that's a much better way than you coming up and saying, hey, here's what you need to do, type of thing.
And then they're expecting it. And then to your point earlier, the technician does not have an objection or a sales hill to climb up and over. Instead, remember you told me you wanted me to let you know if I saw anything. I did find something here. I even took it on video for you. Can I show you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
love it when I get my oil changed. Like, hey, I took a video. What's going on underneath your car? Let me just show you. And I'm like, oh, it really is dirty.
Yeah. I hate those videos. That just means I gotta think, yeah, you're right. I know I need to do that. So
And then my husband's like, it's the same video for every car. I'm like, no, it is not. That is my car.
yeah, they'll show you the license plate first. They're pretty good about that. So
Okay, so let's say that a technician has been working with you and your team, Matt, and they're feeling really good about what they're doing. Maybe they've been through your training more than once. Maybe this is a great, company that you've been working with, great customer of yours that you've been working with, you've been training their team, and they're having some really great strides. So these technicians are very confident. They are very organic with their cadence and their touch points, their points of communication with the customers, with the homeowners. And all of the charts and the graphs and the points in the office are like, oh, wow, we have not but one, we've got multiple superstar techs on our team. Things are going good. But all of a sudden, we don't have a service manager at the company. And we're going to promote from within because we've got all these great superstar guys. So we take technician A and we say, you are now in management. Is that a good thing to do?
I would say typically not. I I've done this myself as a contractor. I have witnessed it in a number of companies that I have worked for or work of being a part of. And there is a weird trigger that happens in that individual when they get the title manager. And for some reason, they believe now that sitting in their office, at a desk, is managing their technicians. And they're used to being out in the field and all the things and fielding all the calls anyway.
Other guys were already
But
calling.
now they get to stay in a nice, I get to stay in my nice air conditioned office and handle all the guys, right? So basically now you're just taking your top performer, put them in the office, and now you're losing all of that performance revenue from that individual to take the calls in an office, which is what he was doing anyways when he was actually out in the field. And you know, that's got to come from also the upper management or the ownership there to recognize and understand that the office work is administrative. That's the stuff that needs to happen when if you got to sit down and go over time cards, for example, or go over their GPS schedules and things like that. But the other 75% of the time, you should be out there bringing your guys to the next level. If a guy's calling you for the same issue 3 times in a row, maybe it makes sense to go get that nice company truck that I gave you and go out there and have a training experience with this individual and teach them and show them how to do more of what you were doing when you were in the field. So yeah, it's a hard one.
Matt, we've got these great technicians that superstars out in the field, and management at companies continues to promote them, or owners continue to promote their best selling technicians into service manager or leadership positions. We know that might not be the right path, the best decision, but it's like, I want to say the path of least resistance. That doesn't even go here. Why? Yeah. Why do business owners continue to promote their best talent, their revenue generators? Now, promotion is great. Let's promote these guys. Let's give them a pathway to grow. But why do we keep moving tracks when we've seen it not work so many times? Why do business owners continue to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things I love about our trades is that the owners are some of the most fascinating and wonderful people that I've ever met. And what I mean by that is they just absolutely believe in their people. They absolutely want their people to grow and to have more opportunities. And that, I think, well, you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. Like, I want to expand my business to be able to pay more people and take care of more families. You know what I mean? And I think that's how we operate. And so when there's an opportunity and a need in the business, then we can grow within and promote somebody to better their lives. I think that's what they truly want, and I think that where the mistakes.
I think too often we promote out of desperation. We need somebody in there. There's a lot of chaos. We need to put out a fire. So we grab the guy that we know, like, and trust, that, hey, you know how to do the things in the field that the guys need to know how to do, and you know how to make revenue. So make everybody else make revenue. And so I think that we too often make the decision out of desperation instead of, wait a minute, what's the personality type and the leadership qualities that we really need in this position?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all at fault for that, at some point or another. And truly, when I look at really good service managers that I have witnessed, they're probably the least technical that I've met. Because it's not about solving the problems in the field per se. I mean, every company has that guy that can fix anything, right? So I could be a great service manager. I can't fix everything, but I know who can. And so if you bring something to me, I'm either going to get that person out there to help you, or we'll figure out the solution. But what's more needed is the leadership side of management, and that is something completely different, in my opinion. I explain that a lot to owners with their management team. There's just because you have a great manager doesn't make them a great leader. And often we believe that because you're a manager, you are a leader. There's a fine line there.
That's a great point.
Because
so good at managing and the numbers and the process and the systems and supporting the team, but does not mean that they are leadership
Right, because
thing.
yeah, techs, particularly techs, they will listen and respond to a manager. But in true leadership, you want your people to follow you. Like they will do whatever necessary because you asked, or they don't want to let you down.
Keeping on some communication, many technicians are incredibly knowledgeable, but struggle to communicate that knowledge to homeowners. What's one tip that can help them communicate more clearly and confidently?
Often I get guys to try to relate it to something that's more simple, like cars, for example, something that's relatable to everybody. Like an example could be let's say the compressor is really acted up and it's over amping, and you could like really lose somebody in trying to explain all that kind of a thing, and they'll say, well, yeah, I just want to see how much longer I can get out of it, or something like along those lines. And it's like, well, it's kind of like a car, right? Like, wouldn't you want to know if your battery was about to die on you before you left the house? And we've all maybe been stuck at that point where your battery dies. Like, well, it started, everything worked fine yesterday,
Yeah.
but today it didn't start. Like, what happened? It's very similar to what could happen to your unit today. So you explain things in a relatable term is often an easier way to help techs not get too overbearing on the technical side of things and lose that and then create that communication gap.
That's a good example. And I think sometimes we might feel like we shouldn't do that because, well, I'm here to talk about the air conditioner. I need to talk about that. But I love that you're just saying, hey, we are humans. Let's talk in a way that everybody can understand. I met with an attorney one time and she's like, no contract should be difficult. If you cannot understand it, then it can't be managed. Contracts should be simple. Communication should be simple. So I love
Yeah.
the simplicity of let's just talk about it like a car. You don't want your battery to break down because you're going to be on the side of the road and that is inconvenient. And we don't want your compressor to break down. We don't want you to be hot or cold. All of the things that you could say with that. I love that you're giving permission to compare it to other things.
Oh yeah. That's one of our goals is, we're not big on like scripting. I'm sure many people have been in a training class where it's like, oh, here's the way you say it, and I get there's like, sometimes there's like coin phrases and things that are very important, right? But I can remember going through those classes, and typically a class would be made by a guy that was amazing, and so the script would be their script. And it's like, okay, you're like Kobe Bryant, and now you want me to play basketball like you, like I can't do that. And
Yeah.
so we try to get the guys to create their own script, and so we do a lot of role playing and things like that, so that it's like, do you understand why? Okay, good. So now you heard how I say it. That's how I say it when I'm in the field, but I know you're not like me. So how would you get that same point across in your own words without it being too much? And then we help them break it down, and be a little uh, not critical, but hey, a little critique. Well, when you said that, it kind of felt this way or that way. What's another word you could use in place of that, type of thing.
Mhm.
So it's tough. I mean, it takes a minute, when it comes to training. We try to explain that to everyone we work with. We're not a silver bullet. Don't expect us to come in. Excuse me. Don't expect us to come in and then tomorrow your guys are going to be amazing. This is going to take time, and you got to put the effort in. There's got to be follow up. There's got to be additional training. You guys have to do training on your own as well, as we go through the process. So a lot of things in that area, are important. That's why we develop with our company annual memberships. Like if we're going to work with you, we want you to know this is going to be an annual thing, right? We're going to come out multiple times and work with your people. We're going to strategize in between. We're going to help you with your business operation. When we look back after a year, this is always my fun part. Like when I talk to like our clients after their first year, and I always tell them it's like a steamroller. It's going to start off slow, and then we're going to get momentum. We're going to smooth the road out. I said, but then we're going to look back at from this point next year, and you watch, and you're gonna be like, and I'll remind you, remember when, and it'll be like, remember when we were doing that, or remember when you were doing this, or you only had this many maintenance agreements, or this or that, and it's an amazing thing, So like I have a client currently right now, and we started a little over a year ago, and they did not have a maintenance program. And so that was like one of the first things we put into play. And that took
a year later, I bet.
What's that?
I said, what a big difference that's going to make in a year. So keep going. Tell me more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so we had to put together the whole thing. And I mean, he actually did a really good job. Put this nice trifold together, and they have plumbing. So it's plumbing and HVAC together. So we made it a 3-visit maintenance program. We made it very affordable. So, great benefits. And we didn't really put it into play until start of this year, January. And the guys didn't even know what to do with it, at first. The first couple of months, like, I don't know, I think we got 10 or something, maybe 12. And then it was like, okay, then we went from 10 after, a month or two, then we got 10 in 1 month. And then now, our goal was 30 a month, and we're at 100 and almost 170. And most of those have happened in the last 3 months. And so they're getting on board, and they're presenting it and showing it, and we're growing the business. So it's awesome.
And it has momentum behind it. That is great. And that's a great example of being able to show, wow, see, this is
Yeah.
one done. The relationship that you continue to build so that you can get the momentum. I love that.
What's one habit you've seen that separates technicians who constantly build trust from those who struggle to connect with the homeowner?
I would say a habit that helps promote trust versus the guys that do not get a lot of trust in their call is moving too fast. Guys that tend to speed through a call, that have that mentality, I just want to get on to the next call. Those are the guys that never really seem to get that, how to build a relationship, and, just like, I can always kind of pick those guys out right away, because when we first start talking about building rapport, and, it's like, we talk a lot about the cleanliness of the trucks and the uniform, and the making sure you're ready to go. And, and by the way, don't bring your tools to the door. And, the guys go, whoa, 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 what? What do you mean? Don't bring my tools to the door. Now I'm like, they're like, I'm here to work. Yeah. But how do you know what tools you need until you go assess the situation? You know what I mean? And so they will come into a call with a much different arena when they don't have their tools. So you got to stop and talk with the homeowner, and I've actually had a guy put me to the test with that, because he was animate that was like, no, I am a tech. And I said, well, prove me wrong. That's what I always tell guys, prove me wrong. The only way you can prove me wrong is by doing it and telling me it doesn't work, and so he didn't like that response, but he did. And it was awesome, because I heard him talking to another tech that had just hired with the company a number of months later. And he was like, yeah, you got to leave your tools in the truck when you come to the call. I was like, what? Hold on a second here. I got to hear this, so I just kind of got to it with an earshot, and he's letting this guy have it. He's explaining to it. And then he just told the guy, he says, I used to be like you. And he goes, but I stopped doing that. And he's like, you know what I found? The homeowners talk to me more. They just talk to me more. I had more casual conversation with them than before. And then from what I understand, he's now a salesperson for that company. He went from a selling tech to a salesperson.
Yeah. Because you're not carrying those tools of, hey, I'm in a hurry, get out of my way, let me get on with my job. No, I'm here to listen. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, could you show me? And it gives
Yeah.
them space to heard.
Yeah, absolutely. From a sales perspective, I always tell the guys, time is money. The more time you spend with the homeowner, the more money they'll be willing to spend with you and your company. And it's so true.
Well, I want to get more into CTM. CTM has helped companies develop technicians through sales and communication training for years. What does that training look like today, and who is it designed for?
Well, we have all kinds of different training programs. And so the probably more fundamental training program is, and probably the core of most of our training is our we refer to as our technician sales training. It's designed from that 0 to 5-year technician. And when you talk about, now you said earlier, like from the truck to the kitchen table, that is developing that process, from start to finish with the technician. And so taking a guy that maybe doesn't have all the skill sets all the way through, but at least we can get him communicating with the homeowner and we can teach him the technical along the way type of thing. And then we have our advanced technician sales. And so that's probably the most difficult class to teach, because this is, we're referring to our selling technicians, the technicians that have the ability to offer equipment options. And so that transition from technician to sales, like switching the hat, is very, very challenging. And then, with all the technology we have out there in this day and age, there's so much more a salesperson needs to know about the home in order to put the right equipment in. And so teaching those sales applications is a challenge. And then we have obviously sales training, for comfort advisors and, however they want to label them. And so that is a very exhaustive process from start to finish, going over the 5 major categories of the sales process. It's the warm up, building rapport, the customer. One thing about us at CTM is everyone wants to know how to close, right? They want to know how to overcome objections and all that kind of stuff. And often I've had to turn people away because that's not all I'm going to teach you, because we believe that you have to earn the right for the sale to get there. So I have to teach you how to get there before you can actually get the goods type of thing. We've also developed a new CSR program as well. So, it's working with the CSRs, and we have a foundational core in what CTM does called the threading effect. And so it's something that just sort of hit me one day over time working with contractors and being a contractor. And the threading effect is the taking one customer and giving them the total experience from start to end. So meaning, how did they call us? What was their experience like on the phone when they called us? And if that person did their job, now the technician's going to go out there. How's that experience for them? And now they turn it over and a salesperson's going to go out there. What's that experience like? They do their job and they sell a system. And now we have the install team that's going to go out there. And then when they're done, how do we follow up with them to retain them for the next 15 years till they put in their next system? And so our training is corely based around that process. So when we find the gaps, or what we call when the thread gets broken, that's where we need to come in and mend that bridge. All right. And in all of our training, it's done with like a lot of the psychology of things, the psychology of selling. People don't really realize, like you were asking me earlier about, that step-by-step process, and I used to like that systematic approach to sales. Like I said earlier, over time of doing that class hundreds and hundreds of times over the years, I realized that everything we do has a psychological factor in the sales process. So we bring a lot of that to the table. And when we started the conversation earlier today of the kind of why, what was missing for you, the why, those were the whys. You asked this question, well, why? Well, for this reason.
Next service. So the logical responses can have, that homework, so.
It's kind of fascinating to me, and that's what I went to school for. I got a degree in psychology. And so I never thought that I'd be using it in this capacity, right? Like I thought, I was like, come sit on my couch and I'll take notes and, I'll help you through your problem. That's what I wanted to do. But now that I realize how that brain works and how it functions, and you can explain the reason why you're saying this is to cause this reaction in the homeowner, and that reaction is going to make this happen over here. This makes that happen over here. It's just biologically how we operate, and it's pretty fascinating. And so we bring a lot of that into our training so the techs can have, I think, a better understanding that it's a lot of it's mental. It's not so physical.
Makes it a lot stickier too, because it's hard to hand somebody a list of here's all your answers to your objection handling. Memorize that. Whereas if you thread it and you use a process and you lay it out, bring all the psychology in there too, then it's more memorable. They can feel it. It's more kinesthetic.
Yeah, and that's the whole, purpose of our company, right? We want to be able to train at each level in that threading effect so that we can not break that thread. Because I mean, like I said, one customer, and often these contractors have hundreds, if not thousands, that they're dealing with every single year. Like that isn't to me, like that's an amazing thing when you think about it. One customer, what we have to do for one customer. And now you got to multiply that by thousands. And that's when everyone's doing that correctly, that's when you have that high performing team. And those are very, very fun teams to work with.
Yeah. The whole team is singing together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been very fortunate to be a part of a number of teams like that. And it's a lot of fun working within them.
So a little birdie told me there's something new going on at CTM called Matt Chats. What is Matt? Who is it for?
As I work with contractors all around the country and in Canada, I started realizing there were certain concepts in the business that seemed to never be really understood. And, it was kind of like, how do we get our message across? That threading effect, when I say it once, like there might be people on here that go, what is he talking about? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to explain it until you can kind of go in detail about it. But I learned that there's just a number of things that contractors just struggle with, but they don't know they're struggling with it. The threading effect is a perfect example. Like, why do I exist most of the time? Teach our guys how to sell, teach them how to sell, teach them how to sell, and so like that, they think that all things happen through sales. Yeah, and it's more than that. And so, it's like you got to bridge those gaps. So yeah, Matt Chats is a 2-hour live workshop with 5 of our 5 concepts in the business that I feel the contractor just ultimately struggle with. And so part of that conversation is the threading effect. One of my greatest eggs that I give to people is I talk to and teach about what the sales formula is. Many people don't know, but there's an actual formula to creating sales. It's a lot simpler than you think. Most contractors do not understand what their break-even point is, and even when I say that out loud, some guys go, what are you talking about? Well, hey, how many dollars does your company need every month in order to exist? Paying all the bills, paying everybody. We need to know what that number is to get started. How many sales does that going to take for that to get started? This was something I learned even as a technician, the residential replacement business model. How does all this stuff work within itself? So why are maintenance agreements so incredibly important? And then we also talk about how to utilize sales to overcome your overhead. And so to me, equipment sales is the quickest and fastest way to get to your break-even point. And so we develop a structure for that. And so we do this class once a month, this workshop. And so our next one for y'all, you might want to give us a call. It's been a very successful program, is on September 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is nuts. We only charge $250 for anybody who wants to join the company. Yeah, and then we also have our climate care members up in Canada, and they get a preferred rate up there because of our currency exchange. So I'll say it again, September 3rd, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And sometimes we have some guests in there as well from different companies. And often, sometimes we have our current clients sit in it again because they just want to get that refresher on those concepts. So then of course, we talk about, we have some specials as part of that as well to work with our company, organization.
Well, Matt, where can everyone find you? Links, socials, everything.
All you have to do is look up CTM or Matt Maleske. We're on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It was I can't think of. I'm on TikTok all the time. We have a YouTube channel. There's all these different ways that you can see our stuff or see what we're up to. We are pretty live. So, when I'm traveling and you see stuff on there, these aren't old clips of things of me doing stuff.
Love
Yeah, I know, Danielle, you've seen our stuff like, oh, he's here and then I'm there. I was just there, doing that stuff.
Love that.
Yeah. So we post things as we are in motion. And of course I have a great team that helps support me with that.
Well, thank you for having this conversation with us, and to everyone listening. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks so much for having me, you guys.
If you want to learn more about the new flat rate, go to thenewflatrate.com. If you want to learn more about CTM, go to coachtrainmotivate.com or give them a call at 209-304-5450. And if you want to learn more about Matt Maleske, I linked all his socials in the description.